Hi YouTube, hi world. Cole here from Uptown Cut. At Uptown Cut, we only use signature steer beef. Signature steer, we think, is the absolute best beef. So, of course, I'm back again. I don't know if you saw our other video. I'm back with the infamous, the famous Amy Sellers.
Woohoo! Hello.
There's Amy right there. So we're going to try and get Amy involved in this as much as possible. So Amy, what are we doing here today?
We are going to talk about cuts of steak because there's a lot of them, and sometimes people have questions.
They kind of get confused by the cuts of steak, don't they?
Absolutely. Sometimes I get confused. Wait, no, I don't.
Yeah, well, me too. Sometimes. So let's try and unconfuse the confusing world of steaks. Where do you want to start?
Let's start small. Tenderloins.
Start with tenderloins. Okay, so the tenderloin starts out looking like this guy right here. This is basically your uncleaned tenderloin. Okay, let's move over here, and we have now the finished product. This is your bacon wrapped tenderloin.
That
right
is
there.
gorgeous.
Do you like that?
I love it. I want to eat it right now.
Raw?
No, I'd like it cooked, please. A nice
Okay.
medium rare.
Sounds good. Let's do it. Okay, let's move on to the next steak. So let's talk a little bit about the tenderloin. The tenderloin is definitely the tenderest cut of beef. It's not the most flavorful. That's why, traditionally speaking, you see in restaurants tenderloin being wrapped in bacon or slathered in béarnaise sauce. What's the next steak you want to get to?
Oh, actually, I want to ask one more question about tenderloin. People say filet mignon. Is that the same thing?
Filet mignon and tenderloin are the same thing.
Okay, that's good.
It is. I often say that without the French, we wouldn't have food. So if you put a French name on it, it might taste better.
Bon appetit.
Next steak, what do you want to talk about?
New York strip.
New York strip loin. Okay, so here is your uncleaned New York strip loin. This is what the strip loin looks like before we turn it into this right over here. Bam! All right, there's your. Oh, that was just like an emerald thing I just did. There's your strip loin. Even distribution of marbling. Traditionally, we leave a fat cap on it, and this is kind of considered to be the king of steaks. The New York strip loin is, I think, one of the absolute best steaks due to the fact that it's the best of both worlds in terms of flavor and tenderness. The New York strip loin has nice texture. New York, how can you argue about New York like the French? Without New York, we often wouldn't have food. So that's the strip loin. What's the next cut?
There's a bit more marbling on the strip loin too than the tenderloin. Isn't that true?
A little bit more marbling in the tenderloin. Traditionally is the leanest or most unmarbled cut. When we talk of marbling, we talk of deliciousness. Generally speaking, when you're paying for better quality beef, you're paying for more marbling, more fat, high health. Pay more, get more. Pay more, get more fat. So fat, really, in the world of steak, is a good thing. You want fat. So speaking of a fatty steak, I guess the next one is the fattiest.
Yeah.
What's the next one?
Ribeye.
Ribeye. Okay, so we got 2 ribeyes for you today. Let's take a look at the ribeye.
Okay.
Before you butcher this down, so we got 2 ribeyes. What's the biggest steak that we sell?
The cowboy steak.
Cowboy steak. Okay, so let's take a look at the cowboy steak. Right
Oh
over
my
here.
goodness.
Oh yeah.
My dad would love this. My dad used to say fat carries the flavor.
Fat carries. Your dad was right. So here's your cowboy steak. Bone in. This is a steak for 1 or 2 people. Traditionally speaking, the best steakhouses in the world will sell a baked steak. They'll sell a bone-in steak. Traditionally speaking, when I eat in the best steakhouses in the world, I love to eat a steak with a bone and a steak for sharing. A steak for 2.
Why do you want a bone in the steak?
More bone, more flavor, more juiciness, more tenderness, more curb appeal, looks better on a plate, point of conversation, more bone, more better. I think that's a saying.
More bone, more better.
More
You
bone.
heard it here, folks.
More bone, more better. This is happening. Okay, let's talk about the traditional ribeye. There's your ribeye. We're about 13 ounces on that guy right there.
Beautiful.
Essentially, these are the 2 steaks. The difference between these 2 is that we take the bone out of this one here, and then we essentially cut this eye of the ribeye in half, and that's what you get. So these are the exact same steaks. This one has more bone, more better. That's it. That's steak 101. We're going to keep it simple. We're going to keep it short. Signature steer. This is all signature steer beef. We're really proud of it. Signature steer, farmer's signature on your beef. Sustainable, transparent. Putting the farmer's signature smack dab on it. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Amy.
Thanks, Cole. Dad was right. Fat carries flavor. Woo, Dad.
Flavor.